Happy Star Wars Day! Woo! Yeah. May the 4th be with you, or Revenge of the 5th, or Revenge of the 6th. Who knows? Because none of the fandom can decide which one is Sith Day. And today, we are back in the car discussing the Star Wars, and this is a conundrum because it's kind of a remake, reboot, sequel, but a discussion that I wanted to have about Star Wars, Rise of Skywalker, and Duel of the Fates. Now, Rise of Skywalker, directed by J.J. Abrams, was the film that we got, and we will be doing a commentary on that at some point in the future. And Duel of the Fates is something we didn't get. Now, if you're asking, what's Duel of the Fates? Duel of the Fates was the script that was written in 2016 that was supposed to be episode 9. Now, I remember that there was early talk where J.J. Abrams had expressed how he wished he could direct the final one because he really liked the script. And then there was an outline at some point for what would be The Last Jedi before Rian Johnson was brought in, and he kind of tossed that and did what he wanted. All right, cool. Now, I'll quickly go over things of Rise of Skywalker that I like. Kylo Ren back in the helmet. Lando appears. In the context of Rise of Skywalker, I do like the redemption of Ben Solo. All right. How they were able to use Leia. Smart. Something worth pointing out in Rise of Skywalker, Luke interacts with physical space as a Force ghost by catching the lightsaber. So there's that. They always talk about, like, how does, the mechanical hand work when he's a Force ghost? Here's a quick thing. He has his regular hand back because he's a ghost. He's a spirit. Simple as that. Anakin has all of his limbs as a ghost. Ta-da! Anyways, I do kind of like I always liked, and this is a franchise thing, the connection between Kylo Ren and Rey. And the Force kind of teleport thing, okay, cool. Force healing, do like that. And I feel like every Star Wars movie advances the Force's ability in some way. I mean, that's some of my quick takeaways with The Rise of Skywalker. Things I don't like. Palpatine. That Rey is a Palpatine, like his granddaughter. Nope, don't like that at all. I don't like that she's like Rey Skywalker. No. No. Skywalker is a family lineage. Okay? It's not just a name you can pick up. All right? The fact is that Ben Solo should have been more upfront with a dual protagonist in this series because he is the Skywalker, just like Anakin was the Skywalker. More about that soon. And the Rise of Skywalker could have been something about, in another way, the return of the Jedi. The rise of Ben Solo back to being a Skywalker. And it could have been him and Rey really taking on Palpatine as this powerful, dyad in the Force. And there could have been some dialogue about the Skywalker lineage. And the idea, we finally get a confirmation of the Force, but the Force created Anakin. But it was manipulated by the dark side. And there was an unnaturalness to the Skywalker line. That's why Anakin fell to the dark side. That's why Kylo fell to the dark side. That's why Luke was tempted to the dark side. Skywalker males are tendency to dark side. Leia stopped training as a Jedi. All right. I know Carrie passed, which made things more difficult, but I really would have liked a lightsaber battle between Leia and Kylo Ren. All right. Now, let's talk about Duel of the Fates, which I think is the movie that should have been made. I loved reading this script. I finished it, and I was like, this should have been the movie that was made. I don't know why they discarded this other than trying to do fan service. Um, Bringing back Palpatine undercuts what was being done in Return of the Jedi. It makes Vader Anakin sacrifice less than. And it really undercuts that whole emotional beat. And I had this conversation with our good friend Brian Peters with if the Emperor is cloning himself and metachlorines are something that's in your blood, could potentially he clone the metachlorines and increase his metachlorine count with each clone and consciousness that he transfers, um, and then make himself all powerful? All right. So there's that. Now, let's get into more of the Duel of the Fates. Um, the thing about Kylo Ren is Kylo Ren exceeded Darth Vader. And I think that's part of his story arc. Is Kylo Ren became supreme. Snoke, I feel like Snoke was what he was, a Force user that maybe was a fanboy of Palpatine trying to do something, the same kind of thing. Or he was being trained at one point by Palpatine and he was still young. We could have done stuff. And then the fact that Kylo Ren takes him out and assumes that mastery elevates where we left Darth Vader. And I think that's Kylo Ren's arc. And in the Duel of the Fates, he is seeking ultimate power from Mortis, which gets back into the origin of the Force. And we see Mortis was talked about in the Clone Wars cartoon, which is a great episode and very, very well done. And I like that. I also like that Duel of the Fates script actually makes the new characters important. You actually care about their stories. You care about their arcs. I mean, it adds Rose to the group. So yeah, Finn, Rose, Poe, and Rey. Great. Awesome. Finn actually has a beautiful arc of leading a ground assault and actually helping stormtroopers, um, rebel. And he meets a new one and he gets a name and stormtroopers turn. The whole thing with the Force Awakens was it was like an awakening in a lot of people, and that's still present in this script, and it's in Rise of Skywalker. Another thing is the one thing I could do without is the kind of Poe Rey love story. I could do without that. Okay. I don't need Poe as like a smuggler type thing, spice runner. Don't need that. Okay, from Rise of Skywalker. But the Poe Rey, I don't need that. I do like that Rey constructs her own lightsaber, which is a dual blade. It's a blue dual blade, and she's wearing all black. Much like Luke in Return of the Jedi, dual blade blue is awesome. Rey is, I think, in the script showing more of that internal battle between light and dark. And one of the best things in the Duel of the Fates is she comes to terms and shows the Jedi and it mentions how they were wrong. How you have to have good and dark, love and passion inside of you to find balance, and that's the only way to bring balance to the Force. And I think Rey's story is much stronger in this, with her and her emotions and how she fights. And I could go on, but that should be what this is. Palpatine, I feel like it makes the world feel small. It makes Rey feel less than a character of her own being, because the whole Rey nobody, that she's nobody. It doesn't matter. Kylo elevates himself because he's from the Skywalker line. But the Force is in everyone. And that's why the idea that this is the final of the Skywalker saga, because Kylo Ren is the last Skywalker. Now, jumping forward, we do get the Knights of Ren in this. And they actually play a better role than what they did in Rise of Skywalker. And there's an amazing scene of Rey fighting the Knights of Ren. We still don't get much of their backstory, but it is an awesome scene to read of Rey fighting them and how she does use Force lightning. And we see how she's going back and forth. So there are elements that are in both scripts. And Kylo Ren gets damaged. There's this whole thing where he physically, melts metal on his face, and he's going down a darker path, and how he's physically being corrupted, which I think is great when you look at the first film. He wears a helmet. He chooses to wear a helmet, and I love the way Kylo Ren looks in Force Awakens. The second one's he doesn't have his helmet. He breaks it. It's an emotional. He's open. His face, and then this one is him going back into the helmet, but disfiguring himself. And he goes and he finds this ancient being who helped train Sith. Awesome. He learns how to basically take the living Force out of people. And he kills that being and absorbs all of its power, all of its Force energy. Great. That's like the opposite side of Force healing. So Force healing is not in Duel of Fates, but it could be inserted. Now, Leia does play a pretty prominent role in this, and Lando is in it as well. But I would have to try to maybe shift some of Leia's stuff to another character, maybe to Lando in certain ways, because we need another OG character to help ground this, since Carrie Fisher had passed on in real life. So that's something to work around. Now, Kylo Ren, when he gets to Mortis, Rey is trying to get to Mortis, and they battle. Kylo Ren, they're both more powerful, and basically, the big thing is he starts to pull the living Force from Rey and kill her. And this is where I think, just like kind of in Rise of Skywalker, I think Leia feels it, and she uses all of her Force energy to send a shock to Ben that kind of stops him. He realizes, he pauses, and he takes all of her life force, and she dies, saving her son for a moment. Maybe not saving, but stopping and holding her son from killing Rey, and then Rey ends up killing Kylo. Because I think, as much as I hate to say it, that I like the idea of Ben Solo being redeemed. I feel like you don't want him to be Anakin 2.0. You don't want him to be Anakin 2.0. You got to show something different. And this is what could have happened. And it is tragic. In Star Wars, the only way for him to be redeemed is to die, sacrificing himself, because the other way would be for him to live, and then we see either Ben Solo on the run or hiding, and then you get a whole other movie of how does he redeem himself after being Kylo Ren? But if you had him dying for the dark side, because if you look at the other films, there's always conversation about Anakin, that there's good in him, he can be saved. But the way they talk about Ben in this movie is there is not. He is gone. He is corrupted. He has gone to somewhere even darker than Anakin did. And I think that's part of the story that we have to hit on. So you have the idea of Anakin failed and was redeemed. Luke was tempted but never faltered. And Ben fell completely. And with Leia dying and then Ben dying, you end the Skywalker bloodline and what that means. There's some cool things in here that you find that Snoke had a young Ben and the Knights find any Force-sensitive kids and try to kill them to try to wipe out anyone that could rise power to rival Ben. And it was the Kylo Ren and the Knights that killed her parents. I kind of wish we'd get some sort of like what the age difference is between the two of them. I feel like it's almost like 10 years maybe. Like Rey is, early 20s and Ben's in his 30s. But it's Star Wars. It's one thing Disney hasn't shown us in any of their spin-off shows is a young Ben Solo, which I would mind seeing something so that we feel for this kid and see the good in him before he becomes corrupted. There's nothing in Duel of Fates I feel that takes away from what was done that needed the retconning that we got with Rise of Skywalker. I don't like Rey being from a lineage. I like the idea that the Force chose Rey, and that is in this script. There's also a greatness where Rey dies too, so does Ben, and kind of starts to see the ghosts of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Luke Skywalker, and Yoda. And they discuss how they were wrong and how Rey did find a way to be true balance. And she has the ability to go back to Earth or enter the beyond the Force realm of like a heaven. I thought that was really cool. There are some great subplots with C-3PO and R2-D2 that I think are much stronger than what we got in Rise of Skywalker. It would have been neat to see Kylo Ren with Sith eyes, showing that he officially was that dark as we go through his story. Every character gets a better storyline in this movie. We still kind of get the what's been referred to as the Lando on your left scene in this, but now it's being taken place at Coruscant. But my question was, I thought that Coruscant was destroyed in Force Awakens. And I feel like the idea they blew up multiple planets in Force Awakens was not fully gone into, because they basically were crippling the government by taking out the planets that the government operate on. And that's why I thought they destroyed Coruscant. But in this, we go back to Coruscant. So I'm not sure. I need to watch Force Awakens again. And I feel like that was never in. When we get to The Last Jedi, it really feels like it's just these two small groups having a battle by themselves out to the side while nobody else is a part of anything. Like the rest of the galaxy is ignoring this conflict. We don't really see how much the First Order is raining terror on the galaxy. But in Duel of the Fates, you do feel that. The other thing, this it makes Hux not a joke. Like Hux is kind of scary in the Force Awakens. His devotion to the troopers and everything, and programming. But then they make him a joke in Rise of Skywalker, with him being the spy. Even though Poe makes fun of him in The Last Jedi. So they make Hux an actual strong character that actually goes out and he's jealous of Kylo Ren's power. He knows that he can't win, that they're losing. And he actually kills himself by katana. In this case, a lightsaber that we find out is purple, that was in his collection. And I thought that was a great nod. And it shows the cowardness of him. And I mean, I know, I hate being the person who's like, the unproduced, they should have made this. But the thing was, the script was there. It was part of it. And it pays such better attention to our new characters without relying on nostalgia, without trying to tap back into what happened before. Because the films are generational. The first trilogy is about Anakin. The second trilogy is about Anakin and his son and his daughter. And the third should be about his children and his grandson. But like I said, they put Ben Solo, who should have been this prominent figure, more on the back burner. And I mean, like I said, there could have been some of the stuff that Carrie Fisher did. They could have worked with other characters, and did what they could do with her, um, to really bring Duel of the Fates together. The other thing that I thought of is I feel like Luke's Force Ghost is very prominent in this. And, the way like I said, he interacts with physical matter. My problem with this is there's no sense of strain or difficulty or how the ghosts appear. If they're able to do this, why do not all the Jedi ghosts just appear and start training and have a whole academy taught by ghosts? I think there needs to be something about the limits of the Force Ghost and what they're actually able to accomplish. Because, we've seen now the Force Ghost of Qui-Gon Jinn in the Kenobi series. And I really think that one thing that should have been added to Duel of the Fates, some of the dialogue could be twisted and changed just a little bit. Like there's a part where the ghost of Luke is haunting Ben, and he says, "You're no Skywalker." And I just feel like Ben should have had something like, "I'm the Skywalker that our grandfather wanted to be," or something like that. Um, and I really feel like at the end where Ben had to make a choice about how dark he was going, he should have finally saw the ghost of Anakin Skywalker. That is something I think that's truly missing. The way he would talk to his grandfather. It should be like Anakin had to break free to get to him or something because Ben was so consumed by the dark side. And there should have been a conversation between the two of them where Ben, because there is a great scene where he's talking to the Vader helmet, just like in Force Awakens, and he takes the helmet and he just basically drops it from the balcony in Coruscant, where he's letting it go, and because he is now more powerful and holds himself higher than what Anakin ever was. And I think Anakin needed to confront Ben and try to redeem his grandson. And we just see how much Ben's hatred and anger is driving him. And I mean, that's really my thoughts is it's just an open conversation because Duel of the Fates is the script that should have been made. It should have ended the Skywalker, and it should have been made prominent about who they were. And we find out that Rey's last name is Solana. And I like that. It's actually a really beautiful name. But it sounds too much like Solo. Because Solana. Solana. And and I think that's great, like her having her own identity like that. And that she's gonna start a new Jedi Academy. Because at the end of Duel of the Fates, you see where Rose and Finn have found and set up force sensitive kids and have like a refuge for them, and then Rey shows up because everyone, and that's Rey forms her temple and all that, and continues on. And one of the other things that we get in the Duel of Fate script that was amazing, and how do you not do this, is kind of like the way Luke battled Vader on Dagobah. Kylo goes into like a cave place on the planet. I can't remember the name because it's before he goes to Mortis where he's being trained. And he sees Vader, and we have a lightsaber duel between Kylo Ren and Darth Vader, which is something we've never seen red on red. And seeing those two in a dual fight would have been amazing. And how do you not do that? Um, and yeah, I'm just saying, I fully believe that is the Star Wars film that we were cheated out of. The script was there. If JJ wanted to do something with it, he could have tweaked it. But by going with the Palpatine, I think it undercut everything that this series was doing. I think Duel of the Fates makes Rey a much better character. It makes the story of the Jedi much clearer and cleaner. It makes every character come off stronger, better, and have full character development and arcs. And it makes the sequel trilogy matter, and it does not undercut what had come by bringing back Palpatine. Because if you brought him back like this once, what's going to stop you from finding ways to keep doing it? It just should not have been done. If you're interested in reading Duel of the Fates, leave a comment. I'll throw it in Dropbox with a link. I found it. It took me a little bit online to find it, but I did find it. And what's your favorite Star Wars movie? Check you later. Jtypatrick at gmail.com.